Have you ever wanted to discover what's missing in your life? Metaphysics is available to all and is part of your life even if you don't know it. Welcome to Metaphysics, a view through the veil with Barb Crowley. Together we'll explore the mysteries behind metaphysics and how to use it to have a deeper understanding and advantage in life. And now here's your host, Barb Crowley.
Hi, this is Barb Crowley, and welcome to Metaphysics, a view through the veil. Today, we're going to talk about your inner billionaire, a blending of prosperity principles and spiritual truths. And we're talking about this with Debbie Dobbins, who is not your typical wealth mentor. She's a rebel with the cause, as she says, helping conscious entrepreneurs rewrite their stories about money, power, and purpose. Debbie, welcome to the show. I think we all need some help. Thanks for being here.
I'm so excited. And I just love the premise of your podcast because I've been talking about looking through the veil for probably 40 plus years. And when it was woo woo right now. So now I'm older, it's more common and understandable because
and
truly
that veil got thinner. The veil got thinner.
Totally.
Yeah,
It's just,
so it helps.
I'm so excited. I just turned 70. I was sharing with you before we got on the air in Playa del Carmen. And I have been waiting my whole life for this transformation that I can see before my very eyes, that the world is waking up to this actual notion that there is a veil. That's all it is. It's just a simple little veil that's keeping us stuck from everything that we say that we want. So I'm really excited to explore some of my teachings, but just to really incorporate it with what you already teach to your viewers.
Yeah, great.
It really is. It's just so beautiful when we recognize that we're in charge of our own lives.
Right. But boy, when you look out there, we're waking up kicking and screaming though.
Exactly.
It doesn't seem to be a pleasant, gentle wake up.
It's not. Well, you know, that's what I say all the time, though. Change, major change. I use a butterfly always as an example, that it is completely liquefied down. It's the same DNA. And we really are just going through this liquefaction process, this metamorphosis. And nobody said it was going to be easy. I mean, that's really the beauty of it. It's so magnificent, yet there are what can be perceived as painful parts.
Right. Overriding pain. But then again, no growth without pain. You know, if we're all happy, we're not changing a thing.
100%. You're just status quo. Same stuff, different day.
Speaking of pain, how did you tell me your story about what happened to you?
So I've been teaching abundance literally for 30 years. And I always have been teaching abundance from the perspective that it's your mindset, your prosperity mindset, your abundance mindset. And literally, 8 years ago, I was diagnosed with rectal cancer, which was an enjoyable experience.
Not bad,
Talk about pain. And I ended up I was broke down. My body couldn't work. I couldn't work. And I was on food stamps. I literally was just flat broke. And I knew that my teachings were going to allow me to move through this process. And yet there's something about when you're completely stripped of everything that you have to rely on literally looking at that veil, looking at what the truth is of who you are. And I began to understand so much more clearly a more feminine energy, which is the frequency that we all transmit as these human little bodies, this electromagnetic energy. And I know that you had a woman on, I think it was your last podcast, talking about our vagus nerve system. So our vagus nerve,
CJ Llewellyn,
I really believe it's our brain connecting to our body as well. And all of these memories, these money stories, are downloaded into our body, and then we become addicted to our stories. I didn't realize that as much then as I do now when I was going through this process of being completely brought to my knees, if you will. And yet I think it was one of the happiest times of my entire life because I didn't worry about anything except for survival, which may sound a little challenging to people. Because I've been in the millions and then I was broke and now I rebuilt my millions. But the fact is that I did it completely different this time using frequency, using emotions, using feminine energy. Because what I was teaching previously was manifestation, which
Hmm.
manifestation, if you look at it from, let's just use The Secret as the thing that woke up most of the planet's eyes.
Hmm.
It's very masculine. It's like, I am going to manifest. I am going to create this.
Right.
That's very masculine energy. And I do believe that we need both. And yet we haven't balanced our feminine energy. So when I was on the beach in Playa del Carmen a couple of years ago, and I heard the ocean say to me, "You're here to wake up the feminine on the planet." I looked around and said, "You must be talking to somebody behind me because I'm the best man for the job." Literally, I have demonstrated that masculine energy for my entire life. And
Hmm.
I can railroad, I can push, I can drive, I can manage so much. And yet, that is not what creates the juicy stuff that we all say that we want. And so I I was in Playa writing this book and really became very clear that we all have an inner billionaire. Now, when I say an inner billionaire, you can say, I want to have $1 billion. Most people don't even know what that would feel like. They can't imagine it.
I can't
They can't
imagine.
imagine
Yeah.
it, first of all. But second of all, it's really, what would you do if you had $1 billion? And I purposely said billion, not millions, because it takes us out of that realm of grasping it with our minds, because our minds are very linear and they think in a certain way. And so they can only conceive what they've perceived up until this point.
Hmm.
And that, to really understand that your inner billionaire, that prosperity, that abundance, is the true nature of who we are. It truly is our essence. But we have blocked it by that frequency that we push out, which says, I'm not enough, I don't deserve it, there's not enough on the planet, money is evil, all of the
And then
beautiful
there's
stories.
the flip side of that of, oh my God, what happens if I get it? You know,
Well,
the fear
exactly.
of the success too, the
That
fear of
is. And
actually doing it.
yeah, to quote
Yeah.
Marianne Williamson, we're not afraid of our failures. We are afraid of our successes.
Hmm.
And as I've taught women this modality, if you will, over these past few years, that is really a huge concept, that women are afraid because
Yeah.
we've never learned that it is okay to be okay with ourselves, to love ourselves, that we are worthy, that we are worthy of love, we are worthy of abundance, we're worthy
Hmm.
of all of these things. So when we begin to unravel that and tease out these stories, then we can move to a different frequency, because it isn't about changing this, it's about changing this. Our body has all of these stored memories and emotions that are downloaded chemically into our bodies. And then we just repeat the patterns because that's what our body is doing with the electromagnetic energy that we're putting out. And so, just to really put it through that veil, like, that is the veil, that is the energy that we're putting through the veil when we expect something else, because we're constantly putting out whatever the energy is, the frequency from this body. So it really is so fascinating to watch somebody grasp that concept and say, oh my gosh, yes, I can have a different experience in my life from the inside out. Because whether you call it a poverty consciousness, a lack consciousness, or a victim consciousness, it's all the same. It
Hmm.
all shows up in the exact same way, that gives us a projection of our vision of our life in whatever form we have internally. It isn't anything that's happening to us, it's happening through us.
Hmm. Right. And so many of us know this and don't know what to do about it.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
true.
we see the self-sabotage is one thing, but we also see the result. The result's the same. I think I've done 5 different things or a million different things, and the result is the same. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't make this happen if I wanted to. So how is this happening? You know?
Well, it's our emotional body. And so
Mhm.
as women, because I teach mostly women, I do have coaches, I do have clients that are men, and yet it's the emotional body.
Right.
So until we can recognize the emotions that we're having that are creating the frequency, because the emotions are creating the frequencies.
Mhm.
It's not this.
It's
So
not the
until we
mindset because people are walking and listening. That's why I jumped in.
yeah,
You're pointing at your head. It's
yes.
not,
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it's okay. It's not the mindset, it's
It's
the
not
heart,
the
it's the
mind, it's the
emotion.
actual body. And so
Yeah.
when we begin to recognize what emotions we are having that are creating the experience, then we can begin to create a different emotion. So that's when I teach about emotions, because women have emotability in spades. That's
Mhm.
how we come into the planet. When we begin to recognize what is the emotion that I want to feel, then I'm going to create that in form. So, for instance, for me, one of my uh, overriding conversations with myself and feelings was that I wasn't heard, which is very fascinating, because we do whatever we can to compensate for whatever our fears and our lack beliefs are. So it
Mhm.
was that I wasn't heard. So I thought, well, what does that feel like? How does that feel like when I'm not heard? So I got really clear with what those feelings are: not enough, um, not seen, not participatory in certain experiences. And then once you know what it is that you don't want, because we all know, we say we know what we don't want.
Mhm.
The key is to determine what you don't want, and especially in your feelings, your emotions, then say that basically it's usually the opposite, but it's not always. What do I want to feel? So,
Right.
how did I want to feel? What would it feel like if I were heard? So part of what I teach, because the book's got a lot of different chapters on a lot of different things, is number one about your emotions, but number two about how you're actually showing up in your body, because our body has all of the knowingness that we need to move us forward.
Mhm.
So how would my body feel if I was being heard? So sometimes some people call it faking it till you make it, or
Right,
act
right.
as if, that kind of conversation. But it truly is very essential to the process. But using your body, not using once again your mind. It's about
Mhm.
using your body. So I teach in the book various stances, how you manage your body, because there are powerful ways that our body shows up. So, like, if I'm sitting in this chair and I'm all hunched over,
Mhm.
then I'm giving out another electromagnetic frequency out there that is not necessarily what I want in most cases. So if I sit upright, and I mean, these little simple things that we think are not powerful, they truly are powerful. So having a
Or
powerful
the
stance.
things we are not aware we're doing. There's a lot of
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
That's 100% true. Yes. And so then beginning to feel what that feels like if I were to be heard in my particular case that I'm sharing about, or what would it feel like for me? Because I talk about abundance, but people always want to translate that into physical money. Money is
Mhm.
just an energy. But what is it that you say you want the money for? People say all the time, I want to travel, or I want the perfect job, or I want the perfect relationship. What do those things look like and feel like in your body? Because it really truly is about rewiring not our minds, but rewiring the physicality and the energy frequency in our bodies. So that's step number one, is just to begin to understand what you're feeling now that you say you don't want, and then transmute that, alchemize that into what we truly do want to feel.
I'm gonna back you up just a little bit. Um, hopefully not too far, but into why did you believe that you were not heard? And how do you battle that? Because
Yeah.
that has given you something in your life, that belief that you're not being heard.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't have to take responsibility. Maybe you don't have to deal something. You got something from that. And you
Well,
got it from somewhere,
yeah.
so and
And
was
I've
it
done.
you were, that was one of the things you battled, right? That you weren't
Right,
being
so I
heard.
just was using my
No,
story as
that's
an
perfect.
example. I mean,
So
have a
for
lot of
you
women, yeah, have different stories, because they're just all stories.
Mhm,
Everything we have in our lives that is impeding us is a story, and
right.
it's a story that we made up. So for my case, I've done a lot of internal work on that, and
Mhm,
I've been able to look at various stages of my life when that has become an issue. And it goes back to literally when I was 10 years old and I was left in charge of my three siblings.
Mhm.
by my mom. She went off to work, and they did not listen to me one bit.
Oh,
And
I'm
so,
sure, yeah.
yeah, I mean, but it's, it's not something that just showed up that I
Mhm.
understood clearly. It took a lot of time. It took a lot of me doing this inner work to know that that's really where it was, the root was. And
Right.
yet, we don't always even need to know where the root is. And so, one of the examples that I use about stories, there was a gentleman that was hit by a truck, and he was almost, according to him, he almost died. So he tells his story that he was hit by a truck and he almost died. And he told this story over and over and over. And he was very resentful about the person that hit him. And he held on to that resentment for decades. And he was sitting in a therapist or coach's office. I can't remember which one it was. It was probably a coach because they go direct to the laser. And he kept saying his story. And the coach said, "You got hit by a truck." And he says, "No, I got hit by a truck and I almost died." "You got hit by a truck." So he finally said, "I almost died." And he says, "Well, you're sitting here. So the facts are that you got hit by a truck. Everything else that you added onto it was your story."
Oh,
So
wow.
we
Yeah.
all make up our stories, and
Yeah.
then we hold on to them for dear life until we choose to see what the experience was as just something that we experienced and then reconform. There's lots of hypnosis practices that I do with timelines and redoing whatever that memory was. And there's just a lot of modalities. And I know that you've experienced so many through all of your guests. There's
Mhm.
so many modalities available to us. It's really important just to pick the one that resonates the most with you.
Right.
But just know that pick one, because if you do the same stuff day over, day over, day over, it's insanity to think you're going to get a different result. And I've shared this
Unless you're
multiple
working with a computer, at which point you might get a different result.
times.
That's the only place where insanity works.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I had to
That's true.
jump in with that.
That's right.
So
But I do say that the only way to see a different reality for yourself is to completely change who you are. And
Mhm.
most people, because we have this program, I call this our head, our brain, our mind as our AI. And
Mhm.
this is the true essence of what's actually
Your heart.
creating our reality. But
Yeah.
we've programmed our AI, and it's there to keep us safe, our
Mhm.
ego, whatever terminology we want to use around that. But its job is to keep us safe because it has a limited amount of information that we programmed into it. So if we can get past our AI into whatever we want to call it, our unconscious, through hypnosis, through alpha
Right.
and theta brainwave patterns, then we can begin to infiltrate, if you will, the veil. We can go in, we can go past the
Mhm.
veil, and we see the truth of who we are, which are these beautiful, conscious, infinite beings, which is the true reality.
Mhm. Now, all of these, like the root, will be in this lifetime. Can you can it come from another lifetime where you're
Oh, one,
actually coming in with
yeah,
an
yeah.
insecurity or whatever?
Yes, there's generational, whether you call it trauma or belief systems, but there
Mhm.
are generational components that also layer all of this. It isn't
Right.
always just what's happened in this lifetime, and yet, once again, there are so many different modalities to move through this generational trauma that shows up in so many different people's lives. And the beauty of that is, and I've seen that so many times myself and experienced it, that when we begin to heal that generational trauma, then we really are expanding the field that we're in, because I say that
Of the
we are
freedom.
our ancestors' fulfillment of a dream. Literally, we're
Mhm.
all on this planet, and we were on this path of self reflection and evolution, that we are our ancestors' dreams, which is kind of a cool thing if you think about it, because they've just been, dreaming about us since the beginning of time.
Right, right, right. For the generations unborn. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
So let's say in your classes too, how many people do you find? Well, they're in your class, so they've already taken the first step. But how
Yeah.
many people are there that they get to the root cause? Like the guy, you were hit by a truck and you
Mhm.
almost died. Everything passed, you were hit by a truck. The fact is a story. how many of them can't let go of the story? You know,
Oh, I
it
think it's
seems like
really
everybody's so attached to their story that they have trouble not only getting to the fact, but letting go of it. It's almost like their identity.
a lot of times that when we first start on this journey, then
Hmm.
that is what I observe. Now, that's my observation, and that doesn't make that real either.
Hmm.
So I think it's very fascinating that we all have our own little realities. But the
Right.
fact is that it depends on where someone is on this journey, because evidence is what we look for as a human species in our 3D world. Instead of the evidence being internalized and the knowingness coming from the truth of who we are, we're just consciousness and we're infinite and all of the truth, we are still relying as this human 3D species on what our reality or what we perceive our reality is of for our evidence. And the fact of the matter is we are creating the evidence through what's
Hmm.
called reticular vision. So when we set out to see the truth and we are very focused on that, then we will see that truth and we will see that evidence. So one of the biggest hurdles that I've experienced with participants in these types of courses is that they still want to keep going to the evidence of what, like the Supreme Court would call it, precedents, what your past is, that's their evidence. And until they let go of the evidence and start looking for, with that reticular vision, for the expectation of good, for the abundance, for that everything is working in my favor, until they begin to be focus on that, and that's what they will then see, because you will only see what you focus on. Reticular vision is that simple. It's just our sorting and filtering system, that when we're looking for something, that's what we see. So if we're still looking for all of the things that we say were our reality, we will continue to see it. So it's really just that intersection when we begin to shift and say, oh my gosh. And sometimes it's just little sprinklings. It's just little
Hmm.
evidence, because the big evidence is so ingrained in our belief systems that it takes a minute for us to let it go. And yet it is a practice, just like anything else. We practiced one type of belief. Now it's time to practice a different belief. And sometimes it's going to take baby steps. And sometimes it's just, some people just grab this and go, oh my gosh, this is what I've been
Right.
waiting for my
Right.
whole life.
Yeah.
So I would say that
They can
it's
accept it immediately.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm,
So once you get them to that point of seeing their story,
mhm.
um, which is the biggest thing I would think,
Yeah.
then you get them to change their vision, change their attention to
Mhm.
what do you want, or what does
Right.
it feel like,
What does it feel
to
like, right?
have this. Yeah,
Right.
to have this.
And one of the first things that I get all of my participants to do is what I call future journaling.
Hmm.
And I used to teach it just by journaling, just, either writing or typing. But it just became so apparent to me that there's audio and frequencies in our voice as well. So our voice
Right.
has power, it resonates, so that to speak it into existence, because we think that when we're thinking, that's actually speaking, and it's not. So using your voice, and I just have a little technique that I use. I get everybody to pick up a cell phone. We're not going to call anybody. What we're going to do is just start talking as if you're sharing with a friend in present
Oh,
time.
wow.
This is my experience today. So for instance, oh my gosh, you can't believe it. I just got booked on Barb's A View Through the Veil. It was one of the most incredible podcasts that I've ever been on. And I feel like I'm reaching so many more people because she has such an amazing audience. So, I mean, that's just an example, but I mean, I can do it with a patio that I want to create in my backyard.
Right,
Like
right.
I've invited all of the
So
neighbors
you're
over. The kids
bringing
are
it
so
into
excited.
reality, into the
You're bringing it
present.
into
Yeah.
reality, because as a hypnotist, your mind doesn't know the difference between reality and what you tell it. So it's
Right.
really such a beautiful tool. And if people start just doing that one thing every single day and then creating their future in the present moment,
Hmm.
it's remarkable. I mean, literally, I have just seen the most amazing things happen.
Give me an
And
example. I love stories.
oh my gosh, I had a
Yeah.
client once that she wanted this beautiful home that was in a neighborhood that she drove by all the time, and she had no idea. She had no credit, she had no money, and all of a sudden, literally, this woman that lived in the house died, knew somebody that she knew, and
Mhm.
willed it to them, and they gave it to her.
Oh my God.
There's no money involved. You see, though,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
about I always say that when we make these intentions, when we declare the way that we want to feel and what our experience is, the universe, the veil, behind the
Mhm.
veil, the field conspires to create it.
Right.
So
Now,
I
what
don't
was
have to
she
do anything.
saying though? Was she saying to her friends, "Hey, I'm moving to this address," or "I'm moving to this street"?
Oh,
What would she
she
say?
would she would drive by the house or she would walk by because she was close
I
enough in the
visit
neighborhood.
things I want off, and I understand
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and so
Yeah.
but she imagined herself in the home. I mean, it was a
Mhm.
little storybook house, it had these beautiful green shutters, it
Yeah.
had a red door, it had the perfect backyard that she wanted with these trees, and she
Yeah.
imagined her dog there. I mean, the thing is that and it didn't necessarily have to be that house,
Mhm.
because when I tell people it's not about this particular and micromanaging the universe. It's how you would feel in the energy there. So it's this or better. So
Right.
just really beginning to feel the energy of being and living on that street, in that house. It wasn't about the house itself, it was about the feelings that she was generating from being the experience of living in that house, of having
And
the amazing
owning that
neighbor.
house. Yeah, of
Mhm,
living in
mhm.
her own home, which was
Yeah,
also a house.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I have always stepped back off of manifestation for the simple reason that when I look back over my life, I could never have manifested it. I had, it wasn't even in my consciousness. I lived and
right.
worked in New York City. I didn't know where Denver was. Everything was west, but they were equally west. It was out there
It was
someplace,
over there. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
get
yeah. And the trip that I took through my lifetime, I could never have imagined it. And
yeah,
so I was always afraid to manifest because if I had manifested well at that time, I'd be in a little apartment in New York City because
yeah,
that's as big,
right.
not as big as I could think. I didn't have a reality past that.
Yeah, yeah,
And that was something that, always wondered, how do you get past that? So it's got to be open to me, it's like, oh, I don't want to make my world small. I don't want to
right,
miss what I don't know. Yeah.
and that's what I've now termed micromanaging the universe.
Right.
She
Right.
wasn't micromanaging the universe with that particular house. That house was just a conduit for her, for the feelings that it was embodying in her. So
Hmm.
it could have been another house, it could have been in another city, it could have been another state. So that's why when I share with particularly women, it's about really feeling the feelings that you want to feel in your life, because we all know what it feels like to feel good, right? That's
Yeah.
what we
Yeah.
all want. We all want
Yeah.
to feel good, right?
Hmm.
What is feeling good for any individual person? And when you break it down to, well, I would feel good if I had a gazillion dollars. That's
Hmm.
not a realistic statement, because you
Yeah.
don't even know how you would feel if you had $1 million,
Hmm.
but you know how you feel today. And if it's not the way you say you want to feel, that's why it's about really understanding the feeling that you want. And so in the book, I actually have two chapters on this topic, which is I say gratitude is the gateway to everything. There's
Hmm.
two chapters on gratitude. One is the scientific foundation of gratitude, and the second one is the spiritual teachings around gratitude. Because literally, anybody, I don't care where you are, you can be. I read or heard a documentary on Justin Bieber recently.
Hmm.
They said he's made a $500 million to $1 billion, and he's the most unhappy person on the planet. So the money part, and we all know this, what is
Right.
that phrase? Money doesn't buy happiness. It certainly makes it more comfortable. However, the feelings that we have about where we are in this moment. So I always start out every course by saying, talking about gratitude, but bloom where you're planted. Because if we are not grateful for where we are in this very moment, whether you are a billionaire or you are flat broke, like I have experienced,
Mm-hmm.
getting to be grateful for everything that's happening in your experience, that begins to open the gateway for so many other things to show up. And to me, that's what's so beautiful, is because gratitude and forgiveness are the two things that will download chemicals in our bodies that allow us to get into those alpha and theta states so that we can meditate and allow ourselves to give ourself messages that are very empowering. But the fact is that until we begin to be grateful for everything that we have right in this very moment,
Mm-hmm.
I remember Edwene Gaines was an abundance teacher that I ran into many, many, many decades ago. And she said this thing at a talk that I love so much. And she was talking about giving and tithing. But she said, honey, if God can't trust you with giving away 10% of your, $100, God's not going to trust you with $1 million. So the fact is that I really love that so much, because we
Yeah.
do say these things. When this happens, if then this, and
Yeah.
that's not the
Yeah.
truth. Our real truth and reality is to be grateful for every juicy moment of our lives right here and right now. And the more grateful we are, the more good shows up. It's an amazing phenomenon. And what happens is when I see people that are negative or playing the victim, that's the very first thing that they have to do. They have to get into that place where gratitude is the absolute core of their being. And then you can begin to expand, because you're going to have great feelings just because you're grateful. You can't be grateful and resentful at the same time. It's impossible. So those are
All right,
my
I'm going to
ideas.
out myself here. I'm going to out
Okay.
myself because when I've
Okay.
done the gratitude thing,
Hmm.
I ran out of things within a week. And that sounds terrible because I have a really nice life. But it
Yeah.
started repeating myself over. Thanks for the car, thanks for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Well,
then I bored the hell out of myself and then I dropped it.
exactly, and that's the difference between the gratitude that I teach and the
Uh-huh.
gratitude that I actually practiced a number of years ago, because I had a process that I called the recipe for success, and it was just creating a gratitude list every morning. So I would go through rotely gratitude this and gratitude
Mm-hmm.
that. The gratitude that I'm talking about is the absolute whole fiber of your being grateful. So I could stand at the Keurig in the morning while the coffee is pouring into the cup and imagine all of the things that I'm grateful for that simple little cup of coffee. Something as simple as this cell phone. Like, I don't just say I'm grateful for my cell phone. Why am I grateful? I am grateful
Okay,
because it allows me
that's
to
the difference
communicate
then.
with all of the people. So it really is this gratitude practice. I'll be
Mm-hmm.
on a walk. I have beautiful parks where I live. I'll be on a walk and I'm just absorbed with the nature. I'm so grateful for nature because it just continually shares the abundant nature of our universe. So it really is truly taking it from that place of I'm making a gratitude list, right?
Right,
Like you
right.
said, it's
Check it
very rote.
off. Yeah.
It really is beginning to feel it from that top of your head to your toenails, that sense of gratitude. And when you embody that and it takes over your entire beingness, those
Mhm.
emotions begin to transmute and alchemize into the emotions that I share that we want to have to create the life that we want.
Yeah, that is different from the way I was doing it. Although I'll tell you the truth, when I take a walk, I'll look around, how beautiful. And then I'm so grateful that my body works.
Exactly. I mean,
That's
that's so
where I
true.
go, oh, thank God. You know?
I agree. Trust
Yeah.
me. 70 years old.
Right, I
I
am.
work
It's
out.
like, oh, thank God my body works.
That's right.
And then again, is it grateful when I'm saying thank God it works? I feel like there's a twist there that kind of shouldn't be. Thank God it works as if, ooh, maybe it wouldn't work. There's the
Yeah,
other side is
there's
in that somewhere.
there is. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. I know. It's like, how do I get this right?
Yeah.
I know. I know.
I think
Um,
it's just staying focused in practice, actually.
Right. I guess so. And then, but that's where I really feel it. Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God everything's working. um, how about because I do believe that we come in with a plan and a personality, and, we want to experience what we planned before we got here. That's what I understand. That's my belief, anyway.
Yeah.
Um, and there are some people that are going to have money here no matter what. And some
Mhm.
people are going to have money here no matter what. I mean, not have money here no matter what. Can you change the plan while here? Because if you want to experience money, this is my belief that you're going to experience every aspect of money. You're going to experience being ultra wealthy. You made it and you inherited it. You stole it. You won the lottery. Who knows? Lots of different ways. You're going to also experience poverty. In order to understand money from in the whole picture, you're going to have to experience them all. Well, if you've picked a lifetime where you're going to experience poverty, can you turn that around? First of all, it's my belief. You might not believe that at all. That.
Oh, no, I was gonna share with you I heard this from a woman, a number of years ago, and to be honest with you, I can't even remember who she was.
Mm.
But she and I've just sort of adopted it for myself, and she called it the bus stop conversation. So, if
I
you
like
think
the
about it
name right there.
right,
Yeah.
if you think about it from that perspective, because, it's all just metaphoric, if you will.
Hmm.
Like, none of us knows what's going on behind the veil
Right.
per
Right.
se, right? We can theorize it in quantum physics, and I believe in all of that.
Hmm.
And yet, I love this idea of the bus stop conversation that we all come to this little globe because to think that we are the only planet in the whole solar system, I think is ludicrous, but that's another story.
Me too. Yeah. Aren't we
That we all
important?
that we all showed up at this bus stop before we came here to this 3D world. And we
Yeah.
said, okay, I need to experience whatever, poverty
Hmm.
or joy or forgiveness or whatever it is.
Right.
And you raise your hand and you tell the people at the bus stop, this is what I'd like to do. This is why I'm going there. Who wants to come and help me? Because I also believe that there is no accident that the people that show up in our lives show up for specific reasons.
Right.
I also say that relationships are grist for the spiritual meal because there are going to be people that trigger us. There are going to be
Hmm.
people that show up to help us along this way in ways that we may not say that we want. So
Hmm.
we raise our hands and say, who's going to help us? And then people say, I will help you on that journey. So they come in too to help us. Now, as I said, that journey may not be something that we believe we chose, but we did, if you really
Hmm.
believe you're a conscious being. And so, therefore, we come in here to experience certain things. I believe that everything that we experience is in service to recognize and remember the truth of who we are. Whether that is in this 3D world, you have money, right? Money's just a symbol of energy. So we're experiencing this energy however we choose to experience it. So if energy is the quantum measurement, and money isn't, and some people might have money and some people might not have money, but your feelings about yourself and your world are your choice. I believe that for sure, that we're not ever victims. We're here on a mission, whatever that mission happens to be, so that if people experience someone in their life, I don't know, there's all kinds of horrible things that happen to people, especially
Hmm.
women. We get raped. We get, we have horrible experiences in the world. Yet you can choose to take whatever your experience is and transmute that into something that will take you farther along on your path. And one of the reasons that I became very clear about that was when I was going through treatment for this cancer. I went to what she claimed herself to be as a psychic healer. She had a near death experience. She was originally trained as a chiropractor, but she did frequency healing. And I
Hmm.
truly believe that that was what ultimately healed my body. And yet she saw what I believe was my dad during this session. He was the last person on the planet that I ever imagined would show up. Like it'd be my nice, lovely grandma or,
Right.
somebody
Right.
kind. We had a terrible relationship, a very contentious, estranged relationship. And the thing that he said to her, at least that's what was communicated to me, was there was nobody that would have done the things that I had to do to allow you to become the person that you are and the strength and resilience that you have, because I loved you so much, I was willing to do that. And it was in that moment, and I think it was really shortly thereafter, I learned about this bus stop conversation metaphor. And I thought, that's what we do as humans, though. We claim it bad or we claim it good. There is no bad and there is no good. There just is.
Yeah.
So if we begin to come from that place, that whatever we are on this path, on this little spinning globe, this 3D world, that we're always at choice. We always get to determine how we feel because we're in charge of our feelings.
Mhm.
Nobody can make us feel any other way that we choose. So if we begin to live from that space, whether you're, I've seen people in third world countries where the children are so happy, they have nothing, they have dirt floors. It
Mhm.
isn't about the money. It's about the feeling that you have, number one, around money, the stories you tell yourself around money, but more importantly, about how you love life. If we are constantly just seeing the good and that good is there for us and that everything is working out in our favor, then it gives you a whole different lens to look at the world from.
Mhm. I gotcha. We were lucky in a way because I'm a little bit older than you, but we're coming from the same generation. And like I thought I was rich when I was growing up. And I found out later, much later actually. It took me 20, 25 years to realize no, I wasn't rich.
Yeah, exactly.
And I hear that is said over and over again by people of my age group that we all thought we were in a different place.
Yeah,
And mostly there was not social media. We did not see what other people had or didn't have. We had
yes,
no way to pigeonhole ourselves, really. In
right.
fact, I said to my brother, "What socioeconomic group were we in?" And he's 10 years older. And he said, I don't know.
Yeah,
Within 5 minutes, I had a conversation with my cousin where we talked about getting jobs down the Jersey Shore as au pairs. I said to my
right.
brother, I guess that answered my question.
Yes.
But the
And
feeling was we were rich. And the au
exactly.
pairs, we were fighting for that because we didn't want to be home with nothing to do. We
Right.
never thought about, I need the money. No,
Yeah.
there was that too. But it was, oh no, I don't want to be home. I want to be down Jersey Shore. So,
That's
it's such a different mindset. And that's really what you're talking about is the
yeah,
mindset of the experience.
yes. And yet we've inundated ourselves with this thing called social media and the internet and all of
Social
that.
media has killed us.
It's
It's
allowed
good and
us to.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah, Marie Forleo says that she calls it compare schlager. So we're all drinking this compare schlager,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that really is it. And when you begin to take yourself out of that modality of
Hmm.
comparing yourself, like
Right.
when you said that, I didn't know any different when I was growing up. And so many other people have told stories that they didn't know that they were poor or they didn't have the
Right.
greatest thing
Right. Yeah.
because there was
I don't
nothing else
remember
to
any
compare
lack
it
of
to.
anything.
Right. But that's part of this evolution, if you will, that
Mhm.
now people get that opportunity, and it's not healthy for sure to compare because what we do as a human species, especially social media, is we're comparing our insides to somebody else's outsides. When the
Mhm.
reality is
Right.
we don't know what's
Right.
going on with their insides. I mean, I think that was a famous quote that Oprah had years ago, that you don't know what's going on behind the door of your neighbor. We
It's
don't. We
true.
don't know what's
Yeah.
going on in anybody's heart and soul. I do know, though, after years of coaching people, that every woman has that self-doubt. They have that lack of worthiness. They have that desire that, or that feeling that I am not good enough. And
Right.
that is a very common, and it's men too, but women really have
Why do
embraced it.
women have it? I actually worked with somebody yesterday, 23,
Right.
and I said, I've got one thing I want you to say every morning.
Yeah.
Everything I do is right.
Yeah.
because in her mind, everything she did was wrong.
Right.
And
Well,
I
I mean,
see, females have this mindset.
yeah.
And yet, where did you get this? Why would
Well,
you think this? You know,
my my theory is
good.
for 2000 years, because
Hmm.
it used to be a matriarchal world that we lived in till
Right.
about 2000, 2,500 years ago. And this masculine construct came to be. And this is one that's part of that generational component that
Hmm.
women were put into this box of being property, even though we still aren't that supposedly right now. There's so many other generational components. If you think of just an average woman that's the child of us, a baby boomer,
Right.
right? They're Gen Xer. They've still got some of that messaging that came from our parents that we then gave to them. That because I watched women, the suffragettes and the,
Hmm.
burn your bras and equal wages, all of that conversation. And I never bought into it, but I can see how women did. And then we're still objectified. We're still told as women because the media does that through advertising. So it's
Right.
not okay. Like I've given up makeup. Well, that's not really appropriate.
Right.
I've
Right.
given up high
That
heels.
doesn't
That's not
solve
really,
anything.
that's not feminine, right? But
Right.
it's still, and you watch the influencers, these young women, they're still competing with one another because that's what the messaging is, that's how they have to be successful to get wherever it is that they want to
Right.
get. So it
Right.
really is one of those things. That's why I teach about feminine energy, is that when you begin to embody your own feminine energy and empower yourself from this place,
Hmm.
then you don't have to do anything from the outside. But because we do live in a 3D world, we live in a commercialized world, we
Right.
live in, the people need eyeballs to sell products. So those products are all kinds of things that tell women and men, they have their own little sect over there, but it tells them this is what you need to do to be okay in the world. So if you have grown up with that kind of messaging and now there's influencers out there, right, that are
Right.
telling them even more of that,
Hmm.
then they believe it. Because when you tell somebody something enough times, they will believe it. So
Right.
that really, truly is
Do you know,
a
do you
very,
know, like you'll talk generationally, but I have a nephew, he's now a year and a half old, and he's on the East Coast. So I just pop in, and pop into his world and then pop out,
right,
So I get to see things that maybe other people aren't seeing because,
right.
they're looking all the time. Let me tell
Yeah,
you, that messaging is still going on. He's
yeah,
watching things on TV or reading books or whatever that when the male comes in, the male saves. Before that, the woman was taking care of everything. The female was taking care of everything, but it was the male that saved. And it
yes,
was, I mean, what are we doing here?
yeah,
How are we still doing this? And yet it's there. He's a year and a
yeah,
half old. This is in
yeah,
present time. And I'm
yeah,
not talking about the regime that wants to go backwards and put us back into the ownership thing. I'm
yeah.
talking about, this is the normal stuff being put out there.
Exactly. And
It's
that, like,
terrible.
and I believe that it's shifting. I really do. I think if
I did too until I saw that. And then I thought,
well, yeah.
maybe not.
And part of that is just parenting, about having parents be aware of what their children are exposed
It's
to. We're,
everywhere, Debbie.
you
It's
know,
everywhere. It was just, everything from their little programs to commercials to,
yeah.
picture books to it was everywhere. And I thought, oh my God, we haven't changed a thing. So
Well,
now I'm being
we
negative.
have to believe that we have some because otherwise I'd give up. But
Right, right, right. Well, at least we're getting jobs we can support ourselves,
that's
so
right.
that's good. Sorry.
That's true.
um, yeah, I know. But I was so frustrated by that,
Yeah.
that, oh my God. So coming back to your book, The Wealth Wound, and that
Yeah.
is our belief, our stories, female especially stories of,
Especially. Yeah.
yeah. When you were saying earlier, imagine that you have a gazillion dollars,
Mm,
um, I got tense.
Did you?
I felt my body get tense. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, that's frightening. That's too,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, that's too much. That's frightening.
right.
There was anxiety,
Yeah.
not relief, anxiety.
Right. Exactly. And that's why I don't teach people to begin to imagine that they have a gazillion dollars.
Right.
What I do is I allow them to imagine what it feels like, that freedom. Because if you boil it down and you ask somebody the questions, like, what do you want? I mean, it's a
Hmm.
simple little exercise. You just keep asking your partner, what do you want? What do
Right,
you want?
right. Yeah, until
So
you
they'll
get
start
so
out, some
desperate,
people
you
might
get,
say, I want $1 million. I want this
yeah.
kind of car. I want to go to Europe. I want to whatever. And so when you boil it down, what do you want? Why do you want that? Why do you want that? Why do you want that?
Hmm.
Why do you want that? Every single time, without question, it's freedom.
Right.
That's all that people
That's
ever
what
want.
I found too. When I
That's
did
all they
that, it came
want.
down
They
to
don't want the
freedom.
money.
Yeah.
They believe, because they've been programmed to believe, that somehow or another that allows that freedom. When you begin to know that freedom is from within, you could be, who was it? Viktor Frankl was in the concentration camps
Hmm.
all those years
Right.
ago. Wrote a book.
Meaning of life
But he
or meaning
shared,
of man. Yeah.
yeah, but he shared in his book about how he used his imagination to be wherever it is that he desired in his soul.
Hmm.
So it doesn't matter. And I've taught prison inmates that you are completely at choice for your feelings. There may be consequences for your behavior inside of a prison facility, but the fact is that you're still in charge of how you feel, and you can feel free in a prison. You can We are in prisons of our lives. We've created
Right.
these prisons of our lives. So
Hmm.
what is it that will untether us from that feeling of being imprisoned, no matter what we think is the cause or say the cause is? It really is just boils down to that sense of freedom. So what does freedom feel like? So that's the first thing that I will usually ask somebody when I start coaching them, is what does that freedom feel like for you? Begin to embody that feeling,
Hmm.
because that feeling is completely within our control, not outside of us. So if we begin to feel whatever that freedom feels like, then we are signaling to this field, this quantum field, this is the chosen energy. I'm sending that vibration out, that electromagnetic energy, and it has no choice. It's scientific. It comes back exactly in that form. And then we go, oh my gosh,
Right.
that happened,
But what
right? And then we,
happens when you say feel freedom and the feel what it's like to have a gazillion dollars, and I get anxious. How
well,
about,
I mean,
I mean, how do you go into that with, oh, wait a minute, why am I anxious? I mean, you've
well,
got to
exactly.
go there.
Yeah, of course.
What am I afraid of here?
Right.
Why am I anxious? And then you go down that rabbit hole, and then you get into your story. Is that how it goes?
It depends, honestly. Like I said, we don't always need to know the root. We just need to know the feelings that we choose to not have and convert those into the feelings that we want. So, quite often, if somebody begins down the path of feeling that sense of freedom, whatever that looks like and
Mm-hmm.
feels like for them, then the world begins to shift right before their eyes, and nothing then becomes fearful, because the sense of lack of freedom is what causes us to fight or flight. That's what
Tense.
that is.
Yeah.
That's a contraction. So if you have that sense of freedom, it isn't a sense of contraction, it's a sense of expansion. So that's why I always recommend that we get to that feeling first
Mm-hmm.
before we begin to
Oh, and then
try to
back it up.
go into the contraction, right?
Yeah.
Because then it's much harder to come out of it,
Yeah.
because you know that place of fear.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you don't know this place of freedom because you've been in the fear, or not you, but the
Well,
universal you.
no, me.
Yeah, right. So you've been in that sense of contraction and fear. So now we want to begin to experience what that freedom feels like. And then when you begin to open up to that freedom, then the sense of fear begins to dissipate.
So really go to the end result. So the way when
Yes.
you said gazillion dollars and I tensed, it's
Right.
not don't go there. No, go to the feeling of
Yes.
freedom with
Yes.
the gazillion dollars. Yeah,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
you can
Yes.
back into it. Or
Right.
you can really the things probably drop off. Really, the
They do.
anxiety and the
They just
tension just
yes,
drops
because
off.
freedom is one of those high vibration energies. So
Hmm.
I call them light energies and dark energies. That doesn't mean that one are bad, one are good. They're just high vibration and low vibration. So if you're shining light into a dark room, which is freedom into fear, then it expands. And
Hmm.
if you're continuing to focus on the dark emotions, which is perfectly fine, everybody gets to do that. Trust me, I do. And then
Hmm.
I recognize it and I say, that's not a feeling that I want. So then I'm going to shine light by having a more high vibration energy come in and it dissipates it. So it's just like light shining on dark.
I have to say, when I worked in New York, I used to commute in often, and I'd take the bus, and on the bus, I'd have my lottery fantasy. I love that lottery fantasy. I am so upset that they tell you where people won that ticket now. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, give me time. But anyway, the I used to get so good at that lottery fantasy that it was a
Mhm.
shock when I had to get off that bus and actually go to work. It was like, you gotta go. You can't, that was a fantasy. You
Yeah.
gotta go. Because I did. I got so good at it.
Yeah.
But I didn't win the lottery. I never won the lottery. So,
Yeah.
but again, it
That's
always,
again, that's a in my version of the world now, that's micromanaging the universe. And sometimes
mhm,
we don't have the physical energy that's needed to create that because of other
okay.
blocks that are showing up.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Here's the other
yeah.
thing. What was amazing to me too, I ran out of things to buy. I mean, this is in my fantasy.
Oh, absolutely.
I
That's
ran out
great.
very quickly. It was like, well, okay, I got one yard. I don't need three.
Yes,
I
exactly.
ran out of things to buy.
Mhm.
It was kind of interesting,
Yeah,
But I like that to take it to the end and then back it in. That's because I've always had trouble like that, gazillion dollars. Oh my God, there's fear here. Why is there
yeah,
fear?
yeah.
Then I go
And
into the
imagine
story and then I'm lost. I've lost
yeah,
it,
yeah, because imagine what you did was you shut the gate.
Yeah.
As soon as you had the fear, you shut the gate, so nothing else
Hmm.
was gonna happen after that.
Right,
So it's
right,
about really opening up the gate first of what is the feeling that I wanna have? What does that freedom feel like? And literally, it isn't gonna be I would never tell anybody to, do an affirmation or imagine a gazillion dollars
hmm,
if they're in this particular place because
right.
they're not capable of doing it. So
Yeah.
why would you I mean, that's why I'm not a big affirmation fan either. I believe in
I'm not
intentions,
either. Yeah.
but your brain already knows that it's a lie.
Well,
So
that's
I
why I don't do it because I always had in my mind, I'd say it, and then my mind would say, but
100%, that's
there was always the waiver.
right. It's building
So,
the evidence, as I said,
yeah,
using your reticular vision and
yeah,
doing
yeah.
the future journaling. I liken the affirmations to writing on the blackboard 100 times, "I won't pull Sally's pigtails,"
Right.
right? So every child that ever did that, get down to the bottom and they're out there pulling Sally's pigtails again.
Right.
So,
You thought
yeah, it's
about it for
really
100 times. You want to do it. I know.
same
I
thing with
know.
affirmations.
So throughout your book, you go through and step by step bring people through the
Yeah,
process
yeah.
of how to do this.
It's a how-to book. It's got amazing processes in it, so
Mhm.
you can do that way, or you can sign up for multiple courses that I have that walk you through the book. I just finished doing a 12-week live course on the book, chapter by chapter, and just the movement that occurs with people when they begin to go on this path, because this book is not about the same abundance teachings that I gave 20 years ago. This is
Mhm.
truly deep into the field, into spirituality, into feminine energy, and completely so congruent with the person that I have grown into be, and to create that life that everybody says that they desire, but
Right.
yet they feel like eludes them. And it really truly is just I love this book so much. I'm shocked sometimes when I reread the chapters that I wrote this because it just is so juicy and delicious. It
Do you
truly
know I
is.
didn't get the book? Normally I do, so I don't know if
Oh,
something happened there, but I didn't get
oh, I
the
don't
book.
know. That
Yeah.
was my publicist does that stuff,
Yeah,
so I
yeah,
don't.
and sometimes we think it's attached and it's not attached. Sometimes
Mhm.
it came in and dumped into, wrong place.
Yeah,
But I'm
yeah,
going to ask her again to send it on over if
yeah.
that's
Well,
good.
your listeners could get that book. I'm giving
Oh,
it
that's
away
right. Yeah.
for free for the next 2 months. And I didn't give this out to my publicist because I just decided this while I was in Playa. So you'd have to know this website, which I can send it to you as well. You put it in the show
But
notes.
but so tell everybody because we are going to have to,
Yeah,
close it
it's
now. So where to get
it's
hold of you and where to get this?
www.thequeenofmagic.com,
Hmm.
thequeenofmagic.com backslash free book. And you
Okay.
can go on there and get a free copy of that.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And
I have
then
special gifts that go with the book, so it's a nice little opportunity to get you
fabulous.
started on the path because literally this is just about starting.
Hmm.
Everybody gets to have whatever they want in their life. You can be, do, or have whatever you want, but you have to start. Until you
Right.
start and make a decision, nothing's going to change.
And truthfully, until you said, no, go to the end and back in, I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have,
Yeah,
as I told you, I got stuck on the gazillion dollars,
yeah,
and I would have diverted right down the rabbit hole
right.
into where's my story, I would have lost it
Yeah,
there. So this is great. This is great.
yeah.
Now, if they want to work with you personally or take some of your classes, how do they do that?
And my website is thedebbiedobbins.com. So my name is Debbie Dobbins, and it's the Debbie Dobbins because there was a woman named Debbie Dobbins who was a bodybuilder. She's since been deceased for a number of years.
Hmm.
But every time I put my name in, I mean, I come up a lot, but it shows up this woman. So I'm
Right.
the Debbie Dobbins because I'm
Okay.
alive.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. And then
So yeah, so that's yeah,
do you have classes all the time or,
I do.
and you do
Yeah.
them remotely? You can do them online?
Yes, absolutely.
Great.
Hmm.
Do you do them in
Everything.
person as well or just online at this point?
I do in person. I invite people to come sometimes to do retreats like we just did in Playa.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a nice intimate opportunity, or do VIP coaching in these beautiful remote locations, which is also really wonderful because a lot of times just getting out of your own environment,
Right,
that's what's so
right,
key. But then to go really deep and to really get concentrated, um, revealing of who you truly are, because it's not about my teachings, it's about that person's story, and
mm-hmm.
just revealing that story is so dynamic when somebody begins to see what they've been operating under for their whole entire life has
Right.
been keeping them stuck. It's such an epiphany and a revelation. It just always gives me such great joy and pleasure to see that.
It must be great from your side seeing people
Yeah,
blossom like that, bloom
yeah,
like that. Yeah.
yeah,
Great.
yeah,
Hey, thanks so much for being on the show. I've really enjoyed it, and you've certainly opened my eyes about a number of things here.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you.